Hey everyone, if you are trying to get started flipping houses in 2024, make sure you watch this video because I'm going to walk you through the entire house flipping process and point to you the steps where you need to pay the most attention to so you can avoid mistakes and mitigate risks. The house flipping process consists of 6 milestones. Finding a house to flip, analyzing the numbers, funding the flip, renovation, selling the flip, and making a profit or taking a loss. One of the most important steps in the house flipping process is analyzing the numbers because the numbers lay down the foundation of a project. If the numbers are not correct, the whole project could fall apart and cause a big loss. To talk about the house flip numbers, we have to talk about the formula first. And the formula starts with the after repair value, the ARV. That's the estimated sale price that you believe in when you purchase the house flip. The formula is to subtract the rehab cost, other costs, and the desired profit from the after repair value in order to get to the max offer price. Once you have the formula, it's really important to make sure that every element in the formula is either estimated or calculated as precisely as you can. As mentioned, the ARV is the starting point of this formula and it's one of the elements that's really easy to be messed up with. So how do you get to an ARV? You need to look at the comparable sales, comps in an area closely and also use a lot of your personal judgment. When you look at comps, you want to make sure the comps that you use are within a small radius of the subject property, usually within a quarter mile or half a mile radius, so that ideally, these properties are within the same exact neighborhood and they are the most comparable. If the comp you use is in a better school district or a quieter or safer neighborhood, then it's not the best comp for you to use because it can cause you to overestimate the ARV. So when you try to go and sell the property, you are not going to be able to hit the ARV and it will likely cause you to either have a smaller profit or even lose money. Other than the location, you also want to pay attention to the features of the home. If the comp has more square footage or more bedrooms or bathrooms, then that's also indication of it not being a great comp. And of course, there are other factors to consider as well, like the lot size, the year built, and the surroundings. If these factors are not exactly the same for the subject property and the comp, then you are going to have to adjust the value of the comps to get closer to the subject property. Otherwise, they are not going to be very comparable for you to use in your analysis. The most common mistake that I see house flipping beginners make is to either overestimate or underestimate the ARV. Neither is ideal because, as we mentioned earlier, if you overestimate the ARV, you are likely going to see a smaller profit or even lose money on a project. But if you underestimate the ARV, then you are likely going to miss out on a deal. When comparing these two likely scenarios, it's better for you to stay on the conservative side so you don't risk losing money. Even if you have to miss out on a deal or two, it's not a big deal. The second element in the formula is the rehab cost. And when you are starting out, that's tricky too because you probably don't know how much everything costs yet, and it's very difficult for you to estimate it accurately. Some people use the cost per square foot method to estimate the rehab cost, but I don't like it very much because the rehab cost depends a lot on the home features like the year built and the condition of the homes. So it needs to be analyzed case by case. And I find using one set numbers for all the houses in terms of the cost per square foot in the renovation isn't very accurate. The best way to estimate rehab cost is to get a few contractor bids, so you can compare their quotes and select the contractor that you want to work with. So that way, you can make sure that you can have a contractor who can do the work within the budget that you have. When estimating rehab cost, I always recommend to add a buffer, so maybe 10-15% on top of the contractor bids, so you can use it as a contingency in case any unexpected things happen, so you wouldn't run out of budget. Unexpected things actually happen more often than not in a flip project because before you purchase a property, when you inspect, you can't really see behind the walls or under the floors, and there could be potential issues in those areas that you don't know until after you open up the walls or the floors, and the contingency money can really help you with those issues that could come up. So in terms of the rehab cost, if you are not very sure, it's better to overestimate than underestimate. The other costs in the flip formula include agent commission, closing costs, financing costs, etc. These costs are very easy to estimate based on the lender's interest rate, the agent's commission percentage, so we're not going to spend a lot of time going over them. So we're going to move on to the last item to be subtracted from the ARV, which is the desired profit. The desired profit is very subjective because it's how much money you'd like to make from a house flip. Even though the desired profit is up to you, there's still some guidelines to follow. I suggest that you set your desired profit to 10-15% of all the money invested. Because if your desired profit is too little, below 10%, then if something happens during the project or the market dynamics changes, then you have very little buffer before you go underwater. But if your desired profit is too high, like 20%, then it would be very difficult for you to make the numbers work because the max offer price would be too low and very few sellers would be likely to accept your offer. The next step that demands your attention is the renovation. That's where there are a lot of moving pieces and it's easy for things to go unexpectedly. The two key pieces to manage in terms of the renovation are the timeline and the budget, both of which are more likely to go over than not. There are a lot of factors that can cause a project to delay. For example, the permitting process can take longer than expected, and unexpected issues can cause a project to delay. And contractors often take on too many projects that they can work on, and they can cause a lot of delay to the project because they are spread too thin. The estimated renovation timeline is very important when you are evaluating a deal because it tells you how much holding cost you have to be prepared for and also how much market risk you are exposed to. If the estimated timeline for you to complete a flip is 3 months, but it ends up taking 6 months for you to do the project, then your holding cost will double because you have to pay a lot more monthly payments to the hard money lenders and to other lenders, and you have to pay more utility costs and property taxes as well. So it will increase your total cost by a lot. On top of that, if it takes you 6 months instead of 3 months to complete a project, the market will likely to have additional movements. Of course, if the market is moving upwards, it's good news for you. But if it's moving downwards, it could really cause you a lot of trouble. And the renovation budget is the rehab cost that we mentioned earlier, and we already said that it's best to overestimate the renovation cost so that you have a safety net. The last step that you need to pay attention to is selling the flip, and it's really important for you to price it right so that you can sell the house quickly at the highest price possible. If you price a property too high, it's probably going to sit on the market and become a stale listing. When buyers see a property sit on the market for too long, they are less likely to be interested because everybody wants what everybody else is interested in, and they are going to suspect that there's some serious issues with the house. That's why it hasn't been sold after a long time. To get out of a situation like that, you'll likely have to drop the price, and sometimes multiple times, so that you can finally sell the house, but then the price is probably going to be lower than the market value. If you price a house too low, you are likely going to leave money on the table, and that's not ideal either. To price a house correctly, you can ask a real estate agent for opinion, and you can also use comps yourself. And make sure you use the comps that are the most comparable to your property in order to get the most accurate price. So these are the most important steps during a house flipping process based on my 6 years of experience flipping houses. And if you want to learn more about the house flipping process, check out my coaching program, Transform Flipper Academy. I teach my students the ins and outs about house flipping, and I help them achieve financial freedom through real estate investing. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.